The killing of George Floyd 1 year ago sparked protests for racial justice across the country. It also often pitted police departments against demonstrators. One of the departments criticized was the NYPD. Protesters claimed some officers used excessive force to clear streets. In one incident, a New York City police vehicle was seen driving into a crowd of protesters. Although the police commissioner has defended his department's actions, an independent investigation determined the NYPD mishandled its response to the protests. My guest is Greg B. Smith. He's an investigative reporter for the city. Greg, welcome. Great to have you with us. So remind our audience quickly about the events last summer as they played out in New York City. How did the NYPD handle the Black Lives Matter protests in the city?
Sure. I think they were caught by surprise, frankly. We recently unearthed some transcripts of the police commissioner, Dermot Shea, and his head of department, Terrence Monahan, who was actually in charge of the response to the protests. So what you saw in New York City was about 3 days later, after the death of George Floyd, the protests just started to take off, and they went on day after day after day. And the number of people who turned out for these protests was enormous. It was phenomenal. They just took over entire public plazas, Union Square Park, Barclays Center, the Brooklyn Bridge. And I think the New York City Police Department didn't know what hit it. And basically what they ended up doing was responding with force. And that is the crux of the criticism of the way they handled all of this. There was some violence by protesters, and there was looting that was kind of ancillary to what was actually mostly peaceful protest. But there were several instances where the New York City Police Department used what ultimately investigators determined was excessive force to essentially make mass arrests of hundreds of people who were just protesting.
So, as you mentioned, there was some looting, some rioting. Commissioner Shea says there were three forces at play during the demonstrations: peaceful protesters, outside agitators, and the police. What more do we know about this outside agitator sort of category, and how did these three intersect, according to the commissioner, and sometimes combust?
What you're referring to is his interview with the Department of Investigation. The City Department of Investigation ultimately did an investigation of the New York City Police Department's handling of the protests, and in doing that, they interviewed Shea, and Shea, it was sports metaphor gone awry. He characterized it as three teams. So there was the New York City Police Department team, then there was the protester team, and then there was what he called the outside agitator team. And his take on that was that there was a good number of people who came from elsewhere, not in New York City, who came specifically to wreak havoc, to cause harm, to steal or to burn or to throw rocks and bottles and everything else. Quantifying that is very difficult. The vast number of people who were in these protests were just there to protest. Now, if you have 100 people in a room and 3 people light a fire in the corner, everyone's attention is going to be brought to the fire in the corner, which is what happened. So you would see here and elsewhere this violence that was occurring, and the NYPD also made a point of pointing it out. They would always say, like X number of cars. There was a couple of incidences where these protesters, for lack of a better term, threw Molotov cocktails at police vehicles, and there were several police vehicles that were essentially destroyed. But again, it's all about scope and perspective. When you're talking about, 2.6 million people, they estimated protested during the entire summer, and the number of people who were arrested and charged with committing violent acts was very small. On the other hand, the police department has to respond to these things, and that's where you get into this issue about, was there a proper use of force or was there an excessive use of force? And there were two different investigations. There was the Department of Investigation report, and then there was also the state attorney general also did one. And they both found the same thing, that there was excessive use of force.
Right. So is it safe to say, though, that Commissioner Shea and Mayor Bill de Blasio come out on different sides of this question, especially when looking at these transcripts that you've mentioned? What is the relationship now between the two, and what does New York, what does the community want to see from the NYPD going forward? Is there support for the defund police movement here in New York, which doesn't mean necessarily defund the police, but reduce funding for the police and distribute those funds elsewhere? Is that being seriously discussed in New York?
Okay, those are two different things. The first thing is, de Blasio has, the day that the DOI report came out, de Blasio put out on Twitter and, I don't know, TikTok or whatever, he apologized. He put out a video where he apologized for the actions of the New York City Police Department during the protests. But if you read the transcript, you can see that Dermot Shea, the commissioner, has a completely different take. His position was they did his quote, phenomenal job. They did a phenomenal job. And so there is a split. And it's pretty obvious when you read these transcripts, there's a tremendous split between the public declaration of Mayor de Blasio and the actual feelings and responses of his police commissioner. So that gets us to the next thing, the defund police issue. I mean, it's become a central issue of the mayoral race. We have a mayoral race going on. June 22nd, that's like a month away from now, is the primary. And this issue is front and center. And the reason it's front and center is because there has been a spike in the number of shootings in New York City, pretty dramatic spike. It's clearly related to the pandemic, but it's continuing, even though the percentage of positives these days in New York City is very low. So at any rate, it's the kind of thing that it's a startling situation where you have the number of shootings has gone up maybe 80% just this year. And so therefore, this has become a central issue in the mayoral race. And there are certain candidates who have, they espouse the defund the police rhetoric, some more so than others. And there's no such thing as defunding the police, but there is definitely a difference of opinion. One of the candidates wants to cut the New York City Police Department's budget by $3 billion. And most of them seem to say $1 billion. But even when you do that, it's not really, it's more about shifting funding to other programs. And, for example, you'd want to be able to try to address mental health issues. That's a huge issue in this city. And that's so
absolutely.
So discussing this stuff, the problem with these terms is that people focus on the terms and then they lose track of the actual details. And the details are really important. And so yeah,
like anything,
this is hugely important right now.
Right. Like anything, the devil is in the details. All right. Well, Greg B. Smith, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your insight.
Happy to be here.